Alright YouTube, we're just gonna be watching this video really quick that I've seen and I had lined up for a couple of days.
I know your secret. You swiped, didn't you?
No.
Oh, but it was a limited time sale.
Oh
you
Lord,
cried.
god damn.
And now look at you. On your, what, 90th pull? For Bernice? Jane Doe? Don't
No.
worry, it's okay.
No.
There's no shame in it. I mean, it's not your fault, right?
I didn't pull for them. I uninstalled the
what I
game
thought,
before
at least.
that.
It certainly isn't me that's the fat blubbering whale. Waiter, I'll take 10 C6 Jane Does, please.
I tried to get Jane Doe. I failed miserably. I wasn't gonna swipe. I quit the game. I went to focus on Star Rail instead. You can't do several gotchas at a time, man. You just can't. It sucks your soul out.
Why'd you make me read that? There's just gotta be some kind of trickery going on that those sneaky little bastards are using to get me to spend. And that's where this story started. In my quest for answers, a simple Google search turned what seemed like cope into one of the biggest rabbit holes I've seen in a long time. But to understand the beginning of the microtransaction empire and its dark secrets, we need to start at the beginning. Also, side note.
Is the beginning what I think it is? Is it the sky? Is it the not the Skyrim horse? The fucking Bethesda horse from back in Oblivion, I think.
I'm not going to explain what a microtransaction is because my totally legit scientific research says about 98.6% of everyone watching this video has bought one in the last 72 hours.
Including him, because he's...
Joke's on you, I haven't bought a microtransaction in like a month, so ha.
Addicted to Nikkei's storyline.
Fuck. Back in the day, there was a man who dreamed big, in 16 times the detail. His name was Todd Howard. Todd became the face of a game studio named Bethesda and helped create some of the best gaming experiences in history, Fallout and The Elder Scrolls. But for this story, we're going to look at The Elder Scrolls 4: Oblivion. According to my highly peer-reviewed and trustworthy resource Wikipedia, majority of people believe that this game was where one of the world's first gaming microtransactions was born, at least in the Western world. As for the East, we're going to get to that later on in the video. You see, in the early 2000s, there was an idea floating around that if a Nokia flip phone could sell things like ringtones and wallpapers, the gaming industry could do it too. So that's exactly what they did. Xbox started selling sexy Cortana themes on the Xbox Live Marketplace, and Bethesda wanted to get on the action too. Back in the olden days, there wasn't really a lot of knowledge about, well, anything digitally sold, really. In Bethesda's words, they wanted to try making their own free-flowing DLC, which sounds a hell of a lot nicer than microtransaction if you ask me. I know. You're salivating at the mouth to know what their choice was to create for such an important moment in gaming history. So please prepare yourself, because what Bethesda crafted is truly groundbreaking.
The gold armor.
You know, we have lots of really strong opinions here on all sides of the fence. And so, in terms of, you know, I mean, without being cheesy, like, it's got style. It has a tone and a style to it. I think very few things in entertainment have. Not just its particular style, but really good style. It knows
That's how he sold it. That was the selling point. It has style.
Is much greater, but then, in a way, for me, it's very, very inviting. You know, I think the main thing that makes it special is that tone and style. I guess my only concern is that people won't really get it.
I'm not one to hate, but let's just say it's a pretty bold idea to think, hey guys, what if we throw a salad bowl at a horse and sell it for 200 Microsoft points on the Xbox Live Store? 200 Microsoft points being the equivalent of $2.50. This idea of charging for a small cosmetic item was pretty new at the time, and honestly, in the grand scheme of things, it was pretty tame compared to the loot box hellscape we live in today.
I'm so thankful we went past the loot box phase in games. Oh Lord.
So how did the horse armor end up doing? Let's just say that players mocked it into oblivion.
God, why?
I'm gonna kill myself!
They also still bought it.
How much horse armor did you sell?
People will buy anything. That doesn't mean you should do it. They will buy anything.
That
sounds terrible.
That sounds real bad.
I know that this is kind of a throwaway joke from Todd, but there's a lot of truth in it. I mean, after some time passed, Bethesda did an April Fool's sale on all their expansions for half off, except the horse armor, which was now double the price, and people
Wow.
still bought it.
What?
Even after learning about how this all started, I personally think it just came down to Bethesda trying to explore different ways to fund future games. It was a can we do this? And not a we have to do this kind of thing. Apparently, they even tried selling the horse armor for a cheaper price, and Microsoft came in like the vultures they are to encourage Bethesda to make it cost even more. It's not
Wow.
like they would ever do
Okay,
anything wrong
Microsoft.
themselves. I'm sure we can all believe in good faith that Bethesda would never be greedy. Learning about this leaf horse is great and all, but honestly, that being the only catalyst for how aggressive microtransactions are today just doesn't add up, because it's only half of the puzzle. Before all of this
What do
even
you mean?
started, there was something else going on. Across the ocean, something was lurking.
No,
something
not
that would soon
Nexon.
grow to be one of the most profitable gaming genres in the world, and would fight for the title
Gacha
of
games.
first Eastern gaming microtransactions. Nexon was debuting their first massively multiplayer online game,
It's
Quiz Quiz, a
cosmetics.
trivia
Oh no,
MMO.
it's
This was
purchasable
released as a new
cosmetics.
free-to-play beta, which did pretty well until it got hit with the Nexon special and swapped to a subscription-based model. The player base was not happy. Nexon panicked. Their greed sent the player base into a nosedive, but luckily, they had an idea. What if, to fix the problem, they could offer things you could put on your character called cosmetics in exchange for
Yep,
even
okay.
more money? If you couldn't guess, this didn't really work. Nexon's US director even said that Quiz Quiz wasn't built for microtransactions, so making things like custom cosmetics ended up being more work than it was actually worth anyways. With these lessons learned, Nexon found its new cash cow that was ready to be fully milked.
Oh, Maple Story.
To be honest with you, I had never really gotten to MapleStory, but unlike Quiz Quiz, after it got ported to the US, it became hugely popular, something Nexon didn't expect since it was hard to believe Americans like myself would pay for digital pixels. But in times like these, it's
Don't
important to remember
underestimate
the
the
words of our
pixels.
Lord and Savior,
Never
Todd
underestimate
Howard.
them.
People will buy anything. After MapleStory's release, Nexon revealed that about 1 million American players bought some kind of in-game cosmetic after it was released. Even with that success, I still don't really think that anyone back then knew what the growing amalgamation of gaming marketplaces would become. What exactly did it evolve into, you might be asking? Lucky for you, we have a list.
Battle passes!
Paid and
Yeah.
free, of course,
Of
Limited
course.
time events that you can only get once.
until they come back for double the price.
Personal player shops that are tailored to your buying habits.
Like the night market in Valorant.
Multiple
that.
types of currency because you can never have
No.
enough.
Oh, and last but not least, my personal favorite.
Loot boxes!
Wow, when you think about it, there really is something for everyone. And if you play a gacha, you can have all of these at the same time. The amount of frustration
Let's not talk about the gachas, please.
online for all of these mechanics is huge. Every day, there's a new commentary video that pops up going over some bullshit microtransaction, whatever the slop of the month game added recently. The thing that's hard to swallow for people about this is that there's a lot of cases where these shady business practices actually work, and unfortunately, we are the proof.
Yeah. Yep.
It's
Gacha games are the biggest evidence. Just look at how much profit Genshin Star Rail. Yeah. Look at how much profit Genshin Star Rail, Arc Knights, all those gacha games, like they're profiting off each new banner that comes out. Like we're talking millions.
3 a.m. Your phone buzzes and you check it. Is it your girlfriend? No, you don't have one of those. It's Clash Royale. It's time to buy your daily deal. You spend your gems,
no.
a sigh of relief washes over you, and it's back to bed. It might seem like an innocent and small mechanic, but there's a little more going on than what meets the eye. Behind the scenes of your favorite games, there are a range of complex psychological equations going on, from whenever you make a purchase to the design of the buy
Oh,
button,
yeah.
the color of your shopping cart, all the way down to you enjoying that sweet, sweet moment of bliss.
Like I'll admit, I folded and I did buy the Star Rail currency a few times. Yeah, but it was like in the small bundles, not the big ones. Just because I was impatient.
Getting your next scantily clad waifu. But what exactly is going on here, and is it
Nikkei.
really as sinister as some
Nikkei.
people like to make it out to be? The answer to that is actually yes.
Yeah.
Also, just before we get into the good stuff, I am not here to absolve anyone of their self-control issues. You and I both know we have no problem
Jane Doe.
throwing away little Timmy's college fund to roll for a sexy rat girl. The
Deep
truth is
breath.
that ever since that shiny horse armor and even the times before it, the realization that you could make even more money beyond a simple subscription or one-time purchase made game companies rabid at the opportunity to monetize. And as the mantra for all games go, where there's money to be made, research will be done. We all know modern game UI storefronts are psychologically built to persuade you in your decision making. It's why a lot of UI descriptions for jobs and games prefer backgrounds in psychology. This shouldn't really be a surprise. Companies like to make a profit, that's the entire point after all. But for games, things get a little different. While I was researching this topic, looking at scientific papers, reading angry game forum posts, and buying Pokemon Pocket card packs to get first-hand experience,
the Pokemon card game on the phone is actually really good at being generous with the fact that you just have to wait 12 hours to pull some cards, which means my crackhead ass that's like addicted to that doesn't have to spend any money, because I know that in like 12 hours time I can just open a pack. Really generous.
There was one phrase that kept popping up over and over. Dark patterns. I know it sounds edgy, but just bear with me for a minute. Imagine you missed your daily login streak and the only way to save it is to pay 100 gold or watch 3 Evany ads. Well, most people say skill issue, this is a dark pattern. Dark patterns are ways companies have to negatively persuade you into doing things, which is almost always buying something. It was then I found something that really opened my eyes on how exposed we are to this in almost every online game there is. Darkpattern.games. There is a lot to go over here, so I'm going to break it down into 4 parts.
What the fuck is that website?
If there's one thing that games like to waste more than your money, it's your time. Earlier, we established that these games are serving up a negative experience in hopes you'll try to create a positive one by buying things. Every time you log on to do your 30 minutes of dailies, you're clicking through menus and doing mundane things so you don't miss a day and get punished for ruining your monthly streak and losing the last reward. All throughout that time, there's ads popping up telling you about all the shortcuts and limited time deals you're missing. In gacha and mobile games, there's what sometimes seems to be an infinite amount of tedious tasks to grind. When I'm doing my Nikkei dailies, really the only thing to get me through all those tedious things is being able to lay eyes on my beautiful wife Soda and her twinkling bunny outfit. These daily mechanics in games are fueled by opportunity cost, which means by not sticking to the schedule set by the game, you might lose out on those free pulls on the final day, pulls which might contain something, keyword might. This fear of wasting your time and losing out on rewards can control your brain, because humans are primed to take actions based on impulse. This might be kind of hard, but imagine a world where Overwatch 2 still has players. You weren't able to grind out all 80 levels of the battle pass and need just 15 more to get that special Arizona green tea Genji skin on the last tier.
I grinded my ass on the first season of Overwatch 2 for this skin. It was not worth it.
Honestly, it's your fault for working a 9 to 5, but don't worry, because Blizzard has you covered. You can pay to skip those 15 tiers and get straight to that juicy reward for $30, you know, triple the price of the original battle pass, which you already paid for. You're paying to not only save your time and get that instant gratification, but to avoid the negative feeling instilled by this time commitment mechanic. You know what? I have a test you can do. The next time you play a game, pay attention to how many store items have the live timer, clock symbol, or even just the color red. Anything that might give you a sense of urgency. That fear of being punished or missing out on what could be a good reward is what keeps players coming back over and over. Also, a special shout out to...
It's also the timer on gacha games on the limited time banners, because like you have like 15, 16 days per banner, sometimes maybe 20. And that's a ticking time bomb. Like if you're on the last day, you still didn't get the character, and you have to grind extra hard to either reach that pity, or you can swipe your card if you really want that character.
All the mobile games out there that tie in-game lives to watching advertisements. Trust me, there is nothing I love more than avoiding a 12-hour life refill timer by watching 120 seconds of ads where they hired fucking chimpanzees to play the damn game. Money is the key to happiness, because behind every swiping card, there's dopamine. And behind dopamine is that tiny bit of fulfillment that feels oh so good. But in order for online games to keep funding their own development, microtransactions are sometimes a necessary evil for games. This can be in all sorts of forms, like how I pay $20 a month for my daily Catgirl ERP sessions in Final Fantasy XIV. But whether a game costs money or is free to play isn't really a dark pattern. Instead, we need to take a deeper look at what's going on inside of those games. One of those things being premium currencies.
Oh,
While
yeah,
they
here we
seem
go.
pretty harmless, it's more than just a cute aesthetic for an in-game shop. I want you to close your eyes and imagine you're a Genshin player for a minute who's about to start gambling. I mean, pulling for Orkina. You're going to need to wish on a banner, which you can do by either Intertwined Fates or Acquainted Fates. Intertwined for only limited time pulls, and Acquainted for standard banner pulls. You can get both Fates by Primo Gems, which can be bought with Genesis Crystals for real money, but when you wish, you can also get Stardust and Star Glitter, where you could spend things like... Okay, that was a lot. And for gacha games, Genshin actually isn't that bad at all. It's very important to not mistake complication for bad design. This is done on purpose. Premium currencies, besides getting around legal loopholes, have two goals when made. One, make the exchange rates hard to calculate mentally, and two,
you know why the
obscure how much things actually cost.
God fucking damn it. Why the exchange rate is done like this? Because then it's harder to associate the value of your real money to the virtual currency.
The exchange rates
like how much would this be in dollars? You know, you if you don't play the game, you don't spend, like, it's hard for your brain to process the value of it, so it's easier for you to swipe. Because if you see a big number, that just means it feels like you're gaining, but you're not. You're not.
Calculate mentally, and two, obscure how much things actually cost. Most players aren't going to go through the mental gymnastics of finding out how much the
$70,000, bro. You need help
after it goes through 10 different currency transactions. Besides trying to be intentionally confusing, I'm sure you've seen bonus currency on store.
Yeah, this is what I mean. So you pay $35, and you get 1980. Yeah, sure. English is not my strong suit. And then you have, like, on top here. Now, this is only a first time purchase bonus, by the way. After you buy this once, you can see up here, double bonus upon your first top up. One time only, which means it doesn't refresh. So after the initial bonus is off, $35 for 1980. That is... to get one pull done in Star Rail, you need 1,600. So you're essentially paying $35 to pull once. Like one 10-time pull. One 10-time pull for $35. I played a shit ton of Star Rail. The game is very generous with its currency. But my god. Every gacha has this shop system. It's no different from Star Rail to Genshin to Arc Knights to Girls Frontline to Nikkei.
Pages too. This is going to get into a little bit of math, which I suck at, so if I get it wrong, please feel free to leave a comment calling me a moron. Let's take a look at League of Legends. You have 7 different options when you buy Riot Points, from $5 to $100. Every single option except the cheapest one gives you extra currency. If we actually do the boring math, you'd be getting extra value in each bundle, starting at $0 to $2 to $4 to $6, and then $17. Wait, why 17? Why is the last one so high and not just $8? Because they want you to feel like the most expensive option is the ultimate deal, and you spending $100 and saving $17 is way more profitable than you spending $11 and saving $1. The other piece to this strange monetary concoction is called waste aversion. With point-based systems, we are way more likely to fall victim to the sunk cost effect. If I want a new skin in League, it's going to cost 1,350 Riot Points. But in the shop, the cheapest option would give you 1,380 Riot points. Oh yes,
of course, selling you short a few points.
But wait, there's nothing in the store that costs 30 Riot points. Sure, it can seem like an oversight, but this is done on purpose. Those extra little points that are in your account are just taunting you. Seriously? Only 30 points? What are you, a poor brokey? That's not even enough to buy a loot box key. Your money turned into pixels is just wasting away. That's the trick with this dark pattern. Human beings don't want to be wasteful, and seeing that gives a negative feeling of wastefulness. And the cure is to buy more to top it off and spend what's left. In an attempt to not be wasteful, some people end up spending even more money. This dark pattern is pretty predatory, but hey, at least games aren't doing stuff like adding completely hidden VIP store pages after you spend $10,000 to try and
$48,000 ship bundle in Stars. The sad part is people bought that.
Siphon out even more money. There's another type of dark pattern we're missing, one that doesn't delve directly into the depths of your bank account or time. This one has to do with your friends. Imagine me, a young Noctapus going to new high school. A group of nerds, my people, took me into their friend group. It was then when I heard for the first time League of Legends.
Oh no.
I will never forgive them for introducing me to that hellhole, encouraging me to buy experience boosts so I could get to level 30 and play ranked. The downfall in quality to my life was unlike any other. 6 years and $4,000 spent on loot boxes later, I'd finally quit.
Good.
The point of this story isn't how much I spent. Actually, just forget that ever happened. The point is, by word of mouth, I spent years being a fan of a game and spending money on it. You have something that's valuable to game companies.
I mean, to be fair, I was like this in Counter-Strike, so I fully understand their point of view. I get it.
Social connections. Games almost always have some kind of refer a friend program, so you can invite someone for a reward, and when they get the same quest, it repeats the process. One invite can turn into 100 invites, and all of a sudden you have a funky looking shape that definitely isn't a scheme of some kind. But regardless, this isn't really a dark pattern at all. To be clear, there's nothing wrong with game developers wanting to reach more players. No one wants to play a dead game. The dark pattern has nothing to do with inviting your friends to join a clan or guild. That's the fun part. The negative experiences are what games can do to you afterwards. You're obligated to be the tank, and you need to be on at this day, at this time, for this special raid, and it doesn't matter if you still enjoy the game because it's time to grind Trials of Osiris, and you will be damned if your pregnant wife ruins it before the new season starts.
Oh lord.
Honey, I think I'm crowning.
Oh, that's great, honey. I'm mid-crown of sorrow with the boys right now. So can you please shut the fuck up and finish making dinner already?
Bro.
Oh, the fat ones.
The thing about this dark pattern is there really isn't a solution to the negative feeling you have besides just playing more with your friends, so unless you're like most tanks who hate their lives, it really isn't that bad. I'll be honest, I was a little skeptical of the social dark patterns, and even the website itself says that not all dark patterns are that bad, and this next one would be a good example of this.
All right.
I've lost 4,000 hours of my life playing Rust, because the way the game's set up makes it a full-time job, and god damn is it addicting. The competition versus other players and the need for being online with your friends at every moment feels like a constant battle that you have to endure. Then it just resets every week and you can do it all over again, trying different strategies and methods to win. This can be considered a dark pattern because it encourages players to address negative, stressful feelings with the behaviors of spending more time than they actually would in a game. If any of you played Rust before, you know exactly what I'm talking about. Your neighbors have 10 players and you're just a lonely duo. So to make up for the disadvantage, you stay up until 5 a.m. hitting rocks to avoid having your base blown up. Then the moment you go to sleep, it happens anyways, and you spend the next 3 hours outside their base shouting,
have you ever said the N-word before?
Colorful phrases, holding a freshly crafted Ioka. These are still social obligations, just geared in a competitive manner supported by the gameplay loop. This means you're spending more time in the game, keeping the player count high, and inadvertently driving up sales, which means the game has better overall health.
I mean, yeah, that makes sense.
For the final piece of this dark pattern puzzle, we have to look at how games hook into players' minds, like some kind of disgusting orange beady-eyed parasite. I'll be honest, there are things I really don't feel that qualified to talk about, like comparing loot boxes to gambling and things like addiction, but what I did find was a surprising overlap between psychological triggers between casinos and online game stores.
I mean,
casinos and microtransactions have one thing in common. They want to make you feel like you have control. Both of these things want you to feel like you have more power than you actually do and make you think you can beat the odds, and in turn, they actually control you. Casinos love to give you meaningless statistics about previous winners, let you roll a dice, or even in some cases give you some kind of virtual scratch-off ticket. The thing that people don't see is that all these outcomes are randomly determined no matter what you do. Sure, for things like blackjack, there are good strategies, but typically at the end of the day, it's out of your control. Microtransactions, specifically loot boxes, are treated the exact same way. Like, for example, Pokemon Pocket was recently released, and when you open a card pack, it lets you choose from a carousel. You can spin it around, pick a pack, and just pray for a rare card. After a few days of its release, players started spreading rumors that a few of the packs in the carousel had a bend in the virtual pack.
And, oh no, it's like the playground fucking things.
Packaging.
Like the playground rumor level.
That these would always have a rare card.
It's completely
Those tweets
RNG.
gained a ton of traction, but the replies were inconsistent. If you actually just check the information button about the pack percentages, it confirms that regardless if a pack's bent, opened backwards, spun 10 times, you will still get the random selection of cards. This tab is intentionally hidden away and confusingly worded. If you have to read it 10 times like me, you'll probably come out of it knowing nothing, which is what they want. Also, to not be fined thousands of dollars, but more on that later. All of these variables to pack openings are expertly crafted because if a player thinks they can avoid the negative, stressful feeling of random chance by beating the odds with their special tricks, they are more inclined to do things like buying cards with real money. It would be worth it since they have the illusion of control. The way our mind comes to conclusions like that, well, to be honest, it kind of makes me feel like a dumbass, but that's just how we're built. We want to find shortcuts and get to the best outcome for ourselves. Earlier, we talked about how games have a funny way of getting you to play them even when they're not really that fun anymore. Playing games is fun, and you spend money and time to do it. The longer you do this, the more endowed value games have. Spending $10 on a free-to-play game means now you subconsciously think the game is worth $10. We're also completing quests, unlocking random things, spending time, money, and social aspects which personally tie us to our accounts or characters. In a lot of cases like MMOs, it's not really surprising we feel emotionally attached to our characters and want to keep progressing.
Yeah, I kept playing this game for almost a decade. I played 14 for so fucking long just because I was like emotionally invested into the character.
But this is where...
But after a certain point where like in Dawn Trail, the game just fell off in terms of story, content, and everything. In fact, Endwalker was a warning. Dawn Trail was...
Games take advantage of you, doing your dailies, buying skips to save time, grinding battle passes, it's all adding more personal value to your game account. So even when you want to stop playing or spending, it's our impulse to keep going. People don't want to feel like they're losing something that's valuable to them. It's like going to a bad movie and not wanting to leave the theater because you're desperately trying to get value out of the ticket you bought. We want to keep the value we created because it makes a lot of sense when you think about it. And with that, we're through all 4 dark pattern types. We know that players can be easily taken advantage of, and there are games that definitely do it. Regardless of being malicious or not, these systems are all designed to work together to make a profit. Again, I'm not here to create excuses for impulse buying a $500 Ari skin, but that doesn't mean we should look the other way when things are predatory. So what happens when it goes too far?
Ooh,
this
that's an interesting topic.
Reaching record-breaking settlement agreements with the creator of Fortnite, Epic Games, agreeing to pay a pair of fines totaling $520 million.
Epic Games, in its quest to make as much money as possible during the rise of Fortnite, hit the limit of fuck around and find out. The Federal Trade Commission said that Epic was violating children's privacy by collecting information from players under the age of 13 without having a way to notify parents, and also doing things like having voice chat enabled by default for children's accounts. That's just part of the lawsuits, but we're looking at the other half of them, which talks about dark patterns. The FTC claimed that it was really easy to accidentally buy something, and that Epic made the menus purposely confusing, leading to hundreds of millions of dollars of accidental purchases.
I remember this because I once accidentally bought a skin in Fortnite while just mashing to get through the menus.
I know it sounds pretty far-fetched, but it was reported that you could accidentally press a button while previewing a skin and it would automatically purchase it to your account without warning. You could press buttons during the loading screen and it could also make a purchase on accident. Pretty much any way they could get money from a parent's credit card, they would do it. And to make things even worse, Epic left out the "Are you sure?" or "Confirm checkout" screens, so if there was a card on the account, it would automatically be charged. Then when parents complained about the hundreds of dollars of V-Bucks being bought, Epic's reply was... well, actually, they didn't reply. They just locked the accounts. The only option to get your account back was to drop any disputes you had, and that you also wouldn't dispute any future charges. I think you can see why they were fined so much. It's not just here, though, because across the world, the fight against dark patterns has already started as well. In 2023, China announced that there would be rules to fight against dark patterns, like removing daily login rewards or not allowing minors to purchase loot boxes. In Belgium, they just straight up ban loot boxes, and in places like South Korea, it's
I mean, loot boxes died out, so they're not much of a talking point anymore.
Required for loot boxes to show the probability percentages before you buy them. All around the world, it seems like governments are starting to crack down on these things, and while it's not all enforced, some game companies are preparing to comply after seeing how big the fines can be. At the end of the day, as long as microtransactions aren't predatory, respect your time, and actually act as a way to support a good game, there's really nothing wrong with buying them. But regardless, always remember, no matter the rules and regulations, dark patterns and deception, people will buy anything. So there you have it. Now that you're definitely going to save money by not buying any more of those useless cosmetics, come give it to me instead, like these wonderful patrons this month. And if
that was the video. you know, there was a lot of valid points about how microtransactions are manipulative and all of that. Again, amazing content creator. Highly recommend you check out other videos from them. But that'll do it for today's stream.